Hello, bonjour, and welcome everybody. My name is Milena Autino. I'm the Business Information Officer here at the World Trade Center, Winnipeg. I would like to begin today's webinar with our land acknowledgement. So we acknowledge that we are gathered on the lands of Treaty 1 territory and that Manitoba is located on the traditional and ancestral lands of the Anishinaabe, Anishinaabeg, Denesalin, Innu, and Dakota Oyeate nations. We acknowledge we are also on the homelands of the Red River Métis and that northern Manitoba includes lands that were and are on the ancestral lands of the Inuit. The World Trade Center Winnipeg team respects the treaties that were made on these territories and acknowledges the harms and mistakes of the past and present throughout our nation. So before we begin, I just want to share a couple housekeeping items. So number one, please send all of your webinar questions directly in the chat box. It should be at the top of your screen, and we'll try to answer as many as we can. And then we also have about a 15-minute Q&A session towards the end. And then lastly, you'll receive a PDF copy of this presentation within the next week. So thank you for joining our webinar, Discover How the Canadian Commercial Corporation, also known as CCC, helps Canadian businesses win international government contracts, which will be presented by Claude Gendron, Director, Customer Acquisition and Outreach. So Claude is a seasoned professional with extensive expertise in international trade and customer acquisition. With more than 24 years of experience with the Government of Canada, including 14 years at Global Affairs Canada and International Trade and Security, he has developed a deep understanding of foreign markets, government procurement, and effective collaboration with federal and provincial partners. So welcome, Claude. The floor is all yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you to Melanie and thank you to you, Milena. Thanks to the World Trade Center Winnipeg for inviting CCC to deliver a presentation today. Really looking forward to engage and have discussion with the participants and how we can really help them in their international trade journey. Again, thank you very much. CCC is a Canadian commercial corporation established in 1946 in the context of the Second World War. We're in a reconstruction context. We've been in operation for over 75 years. We have an office in Ottawa. So as a Crown Corporation, we report to Canadian Parliament. Minister Sidhu reports on activities to Canadian Parliament. So CCC has a twofold mandate. One is to strengthen bilateral trade relations with other government and also to help export or sell to other government internationally. And we do it in a very, very, very niche way. And I'll explain more about it in the presentation. We do have we're a small corporation, but have a quite significant impact on international trade. In 2024, we signed $6.1 billion of contracts, representing around over 12,000 jobs in Canada. So as a government-to-government contracting agency, we work on direct contracting with other governments. So we're the only agency of the Government of Canada who offers international contracting expertise. And our ability is to sign contract as prime contractor. So we engage with other government before reaching a tender, before reaching an RFI that will lead to a tender. And so most of our business, 99% of it internationally, is done on a direct basis, where Canada takes on a prime role as a Government of Canada prime contractor. And then we subcontract domestically with your business. And there's a number of advantages that provides, and I'll be speaking to it in the next few slides. So the service that we offer to Canadian companies include our prime contractor programs. So we manage an international prime contractor program on cost recovery, who help support Canadian businesses in quite a whole range of markets around the globe. And we can do business with all levels of government. We also manage a Defense Production Share Agreement, a treaty with Canada and the United States Department of Defense since 1956 through our DoD Prime Contractor Program. We assist Canadian businesses in their trade journey. Some companies are well established presence in a given market. Some have are relatively new, but are eager to engage and export. So we really provide the best assistance we can in supporting them and providing insights about how to find opportunities in market, where to go, what should be the next step, what are the trade portfolio partners, including the province that could help you in your trade journey. And lastly, we manage a database that encapsulate tender opportunities from 200 jurisdictions around the globe. These are public tender opportunities, and it's free of charge for Canadian companies. So CCC has a global reach. In 22-23, we were active in 55 countries. In 23-24, we were active in 75 countries, but we are quite active around the globe. We worked in countries that are like-minded to Canada, that are bankable, that have a good level of respect for human rights. Usually our niche internationally, except for the US, internationally our niche are mid-range governance countries that would like to acquire goods and services, but they could what they're looking for could represent some challenge internally, either because they attempted in the past and it was a failed tender, or either because they don't have the right expertise in house to run a tender or to oversee a project. So the CCC plays a role where we'll be able to act as a prime contractor, build that level of confidence with the government, and take on the liability and accountability of the project and get the project done as per the terms and conditions, as per the pricing, as per the delivery schedule. So we've listed the countries that we've been active, that we have active touch points. These are not all of the countries, but they represent quite a good chunk. We have a strong brand in Latin America and the Caribbean. With the defense sector booming in Europe, lots of interest in working with CCC. But in Europe, we can do business in other sectors. We're very active in the nuclear sector. We also been active in aerospace. Again, we cover all sectors at CCC, so there are many more we could do. You see some touch points we had in Africa. There's a few projects we did, Cameroon, Ghana. There's some ongoing right now in Côte d'Ivoire. And Bangladesh, we are active. We have regular recurring contract over there. Asia Pacific is a place of interest as well. So we're pretty active. So it's very good for companies who, depending on their market of interest, we certainly can play a role in assisting. So our first program is our International Prime Contractor Program. So that programs, as I mentioned, I've touched very briefly at the beginning of my presentation, works for most countries who may be lacking some governance or some level of confidence in undertaking their project. They may have attempted in the past, failed a tender, and are willing to consider alternative contracting mechanism. So, yeah, so what we offer is essentially to undertake a direct contract with the government, bypassing any competitive process. It's an alternative way of contracting, where CCC will help customizing the solution of the Canadian exporter. So we need to qualify an exporter in the first place before engaging in discussion with the government authority. Then once we qualify the exporter, we'll assess the company's managerial, financial, technical capabilities. Then once we qualify the company, we'll be able to provide a letter of support and explore the interest of the government to consider a direct award, a direct contract. The government may choose to provide a direct award to the company directly, and that's fine. But chances are that if the legal ability of the authority that is being targeted for that project that we're looking at has the ability to justify a source contract, and there could be a number of exceptions. Sometimes it's limited to 3 or 4 exceptions, like uniqueness of the project, of the solution put forward, or national security, or emergency. Sometimes it's a the timelines are very tight, so they really need to acquire the goods and services on urgent basis. So they have their own sets of justification. If they're able to put one forward, the chances are that they may prefer turning to Canada to undertake the work. So CCC has the ability to explore an engagement where Canada would sign the contract. We would sign with legal effect as signed with the government of Canada the contract, will provide oversight throughout the project, will be involved from cradle to grave, and will offer the government a sovereign guarantee contract performance. So government of Canada is offering a guarantee that the project, we will be working with a number of businesses that are qualified to do the work. They have experience to do the work, and that recipe puts us, Canada, as liable and accountable in delivering the solution on times, on pricing within the terms and conditions. So we will subcontract domestically with a Canadian business or a number of Canadian businesses. We can do P3 projects. We can do sales of goods, sales of services. It could be, training. It could be water solution. It could be infrastructure project. In some rare cases, we could do a consortium. We really take a low risk approach, the best we can, to reduce any legal exposure to the crown. But we do business, and we can do small to very large scale business. My team and myself were involved into a major transaction that was announced by our Prime Minister 2 months ago with the sales of CMS 330 to German Navy for 1 billion euros. And I was invited by colleagues at National Defense to meet with the German delegation that was in town for other reasons. They were exploring cooperation. And then I didn't really know what we were to talk about, but I was ready to speak for CCC. And Germany is a very sophisticated market, but in their case, the solution they were willing to acquire normally would require a consultation with industry before running a tender. That would bring them 5 to 8 years down the road before implementing the solution. They could not afford that in the current context. And they made it very clear to us. They were really happy to learn about CCC, and we were able to turn the contract into a 50-year contract. It took 1.5 to 2 years. We could have, I hope we would have done a bit faster, but still, I think it's a little bit over €1 billion, but pretty significant contract. Germany is a sophisticated market, so normally this is not the type of business we would be doing with them. But in this case, they needed to leverage an article of the European Union, the function of the European Union. I believe it's Article 341, paragraph A, to justify the acquisition of goods and services under national security interests, I believe, that allowed them to justify a direct award. So I'll go to the next slide. Just before I explain the internal process at CCC, so we need to qualify a company before we engage with the government. Obviously, it works best for companies that have a solution to sell to government, and it could be any level of authorities, and it can vary. Every country is structured differently, and we can work with the municipality, with a state-owned enterprise, all the way up to the presidential office. It really depends on the need that are identified by the government. We can also, what works well are turnkey solutions, unless you do maintenance work. But we can also do narrow mandate of a larger project. Let's say we could get involved into a commissioning work of a major energy project, or a field supervision, field support training, or honors engineering representing the interests of the owner on the project, or a project management office for the project. So in the case of Peru, we're involved in the largest drip irrigation project in the world. That's going to provide access to land for the farmers. It may likely lead to the creation of 150,000 jobs. It's super significant for them. And Hatch is playing a PMO role in that whole project. So we're the prime contractor, subcontract to Hatch to undertake that project. So most exporters that would engage with my team, we can help make introductions to market. We'll work closely with our colleagues at our embassies. I'm sorry about that. So we'll work with our colleagues at our embassies, but what works well is when an exporter comes with a solution already well identified. So, and it's the same approach to solicitation. So, when a solicitation comes out, the time to prepare a bid is usually very, very tight. For companies who can do their homework, have the ability to engage with the decision makers, with the buying commands, with those who may be awarding the contract, with the technical experts to understand what's coming, what could be the potential specs. All that information is critical. Whether it's going to lead to an RFI and lead to a tender, or not reach that stage yet, we hope it won't reach. For CCC, we have to do it before. But this information is super important. If we know the government has the money, if they don't have the money, where can we get the money? And then what exactly are the specs they're looking for? So then we can prepare a potential proposal. Some companies comes to me and they already have a proposal in hand, and the government, for a number of reasons, may not want to run a tender because they know that the tender may be won by a specific company they may not want to work with. And there's a number of reasons we need to understand what are the potential friction points that could be favorable to direct award. And that takes time. And we take a very organic approach to business. So, and we're a toolbox. So we're there to assist the company on its endeavor, on its undertaking. So we'll work with the company, explore a plan. We'll may consult with our embassy abroad or the province representation abroad, and we'll see what works best. And we'll make an attempt. And we could likely provide a letter of introduction for CCC or a letter of support for the business and ask for to schedule a call. So we'll identify the opportunity with the company unless they come with something already well advanced. We'll gather information. Can the government do government-to-government contracting? Is the government bankable? Are they under IMF restriction for their borrowing capacity, for instance? We may touch base with our embassy or our colleagues in the geographic desk at Foreign Affairs to check what's the appetite to do business with that market, in terms of human rights and other consideration. We'll do a due diligence on the company that we update every year. We can do that in 1 or 2 days. We usually take 2 weeks, but we've been turning them pretty quick. Then internally we'll have a discussion to move the discussion forward toward eventually a solution development, negotiation of a contract up until the signature and implementation. CCC does not carry any contracts template. We work with the government and with the exporter. Obviously, for an exporter, the advantage that we're bringing to the table as an alternative contracting approach is we're moving away any competition in market, and we're allowing you, through discussion alongside of the Government of Canada CCC, to customize your offering at best. The government, if they're challenged with some of the level of their governance, they may have an idea on what they want to acquire. But if you're the expert in that field, you may be better positioned to tell them if they're missing anything there. What more can we do to fully deliver and fulfill their needs? So that could be, that could bring a much greater engagement if the government is convinced. And I've seen cases where a company would meet with the decision maker or the minister, and then will then speak with the technical experts. And then at one point would be the technical experts going to recommend that this company has to go with the government needs to deliver the contract with the company because they answer all of the questions and they have the right infrastructure, they have the right philosophy, all the, everything, all the checkbox has been met. And we'll have a Q&A. Really happy to take questions on the International Prime Contractor program. I just want to add one thing here is that we do business on commercial terms. CCC does not provide financing. We can work with any financial institution. EDC is a key financial partner for us. If the project is smaller than EDC threshold, I believe it's if it's 10 or 12 million, it goes to Elevate Finance, a spin-off of EDC. We can work with Dutch Bank, JP Morgan Chase, Exim Bank. We need to be satisfied with around 25% Canadian content on the project with a Canadian entity. We say 25% Canadian content because some projects are really hard to structure and have a higher Canadian threshold. Canadian content threshold. We don't want to lose a deal that could lead to job creation in Canada. Obviously, the larger the Canadian content is, the better for us and for our mandate. But we don't want to penalize a company. Some government, and it's the case in some markets in Europe, they will want a joint venture. They will want a local partner involved. In the case of India, that's the same thing. But it's not like that in every market. But when that's the case, then the contract needs to take another structure. There is some infrastructure project we do will take the form of an EPC, where the contractor will take all of the operations on a turnkey. But in the case of EPCM, the government may want to have local firms involved as suppliers to undertake some portion of the work. So there's different role we can play, and we can be, we can adapt. For projects, so if you look at doing business in markets where the country could be more reliant on regional development bank, it is a good idea to check on the website of the bank and on their country plans to see if the solution that you're looking to supply has been already earmarked by the regional development bank. Because if there's a strong relationship and dependency of the country to the bank, there's a strong likelihood the bank will be financing that transaction again if it's listed in their country plans, and therefore they will likely ask for a tender. The bank will ask the government to run a tender, or the bank will run it. I'm not privy to the bank, modus operandi and how they operate, but their chances are that there will be a tender, and CCC will not be able to participate. We can participate in short list tenders when is enough time to turn around things. There's in our track record. I mean, the closest deal we turn around was 6 days with wildfire assistance in Bolivia, where we supply Sikorsky aircraft for the Amazonia. But most projects we take a bit longer. It really depends on alignment of all the parties, and everybody's aligned. If the money is available, then we're really good to proceed and move fast. And as CCC, once we identify a lead, we'll have a due diligence on the project itself, the transaction, and then we'll proceed with the contract negotiation. Depending on if the person in the government who's going to be our go-to person or point of contact is seasoned to contracting, that can go fast. But if the person is not seasoned to it, it can go slow. So some government wants a solution today, but their relationship to time and time management is different. And for them today could be in a year, it could be in 6 months. And other government, they want to get it right away, but they have red tapes. So we need to overcome these. In some cases, a government needs to go to parliament to vote a new law because they want a solution, but they have some ability. The government has a majority, and they can do that. So it really depends. We go on a case-by-case basis. Some government will ask an MOU. I was at PDAC conference in Toronto recently. That was March, and I met the Kosovo delegation. There was 2 ministers, the deputy minister, so Minister of Economy, Minister of Trade and Industry. Very good, very productive discussion. They expressed a potential interest in concluding an MOU to kickstart a discussion that could pave the way for a government contracting. So we can conclude these non-binding MOUs. We don't need those ourselves internally, and we try to limit ourselves to make them specific to projects, but we can turn them around pretty quickly. And we will do it usually, obviously, to help a company move forward. And also on a last note, so on this program, so when the government comes with an opportunity, because we have a team we engage with government on a regular basis. They help a number of companies that are active at CCC. But when engaging with the government, sometimes the government will express interest in some specific solution. And as an example, I think it was yesterday, I got notified for an opportunity of potash with Lesotho. So these happens from time to time. If we don't have any qualified company, we'll go and search for one. We'll work with the Trade Commercial Service. We'll engage ourselves with some alcohols. If we have more than one company qualified, then we will have a bit of a challenge, because we don't have the capacity in house to run a mini tender, or what we call a Chinese wall, where everyone will engage with the buyer. So Um, if the government wants to see all the companies or their proposals, we can do that. But if they don't, or they don't express any interest for that, we may have to turn to our embassy colleagues and make the decision, or ask more clarification on the specification for the project to better determine which would be the best supplier. Our goal is really to help every company, but sometimes we don't control the approach that comes our way, but we want to make sure that we can capture those and run with those instead of missing them because we're unable to select the right exporter. So a service that we offer to Canadian businesses, while internationally we work outside of tender, but we wanted to, many companies looking to do business internationally will be bidding on solicitation. So CCC built a free, it's free for companies to register, a free tool called Global Bid Opportunity Finder, GBOF. It encapsulates public tender opportunities across the world from 200 jurisdictions. So every day there's tons of opportunities that are listed. It's a scraping service, so sometimes the information has been captured. It's not perfect, but it is a great service. We receive good feedback from Canadian companies. Really encourage all of you to register on the platform. It also includes opportunities that are emanating from the US DoD, where I'll be speaking in the next few slides about. But it is a great resource. We try to find ways to simplify the life as exporters. I mean, every resource count, and one for small businesses, it's a challenge to identify which resources to spend on sales, on product development, and following up with existing customers. So it's not easy. So really encourage you to register. So you can access that service at www.gbuff.ca. So another prime contractor program that CCC manage is the one through our treaty obligations that we've signed in 1956. We are the custodian of a Defense Production Sharing Agreement, DPSA, with the United States Department of Defense. The United States, like we talk about trade diversification, this is very important. But at the same time, there's 43,000 Canadian businesses exporting to the US on a regular basis. Defense is the largest government spending in the defense sector or in the US, with close to $1 trillion every year. So since 1956, CCC has been the trusted acquisition partner listed in US DoD DFARS supplement regulations. So we are by default the acquisition partner that provided an access of Canadian companies to the US DoD. I mentioned the US DoD. Some of you may not be in the defense sector. You may ask yourself, why is he mentioning this? I mean, there are many needs. The ecosystem is vast. There are needs for training. There's needs to provide consumer goods. There's needs for for roads, for maintenance of aircraft, for all kinds of parts, for telecom. It's just a very vast ecosystem. So that was 21-22 with 868 million spending. I believe in the current administration, they went over $1 trillion, I believe. But you see the solution in aerospace, ICT, construction, defense, and many others. So there's a Lenmore company, GA La Rue in Quebec City, that was awarded a contract for snow blowers for the US DoD. And this is a market that is just next door. I understand the current political. We understand it very well what's at play. But all that to say, we support 500 million, 700 million, sometimes $1 billion of goods of sales to the US DoD every year. And it's very accessible to small companies. So companies that are looking at solicitations on US DoD that are advertised on sam.gov. The SAM, it's called a standing arrangement. That's the acronym SAM, but it's the public tender opportunities for the government of the United States. It includes everything. Only DoD, the DoD portion of sam.gov, CCC can cover under treaty obligations. So a company will get an NCAGE code. my team will receive the notification. We'll go to TND, we'll get the code, and then the company will register on SAM.gov. And then there could be some requirements that have been added recently on cybersecurity CMMC requirements, and we have some material to provide. So that program, let me just check if there's another slide. So this is another example of all the kind of goods and services that are purchased for the DoD every year. And so it's really, really vast. So the process for registering, is pretty straightforward. There's a number of steps to follow. If you go on our website and you look at CCC, selling to U.S. military, you'll have the first, the first sets of requirements that are required. We will be updating the web page soon to add additional security requirements that were added recently, but very accessible. So for any solicitation valued at 350,000 US and above, CCC can support the company. We are funded through the Canadian Parliaments through appropriation to run that business line. So there's no fee for King company. So once you prepare your solicitation, we'll work with PSPC to confirm your pricing, to confirm the pricing follow industry standards, and you won't have to share a specific set of accounting for the DoD. So the contracting officer, obviously, when you submit a bid, they will want to reduce your potential margin and challenge some of your pricing. But by providing a certification with PSPC, that would prevent that from happening. In some cases, the United States DoD can deliver a direct award on leveraging their OTAs, other transaction authorities. So it happens from time to time. They have also a number of funding available for innovation. DARPA engaged with us, I think it was last year, on some projects in the quantum space. We're having discussion with NASA. We have an MOU with NASA. I don't believe we ever did transactions, but we're looking at expanding that program. So there's a great. It is very accessible for companies. It's predictable. There's a number of rules and certification, but once you're in, it's much easier. And so we have a qualification process for that program as well. And for the companies who are interested, we're happy to supply more information on the steps to follow. It's also on our website, but happy to do that. Obviously, selling to the US DoD, partnering with Canada for selling to US DoD helps in your branding. You're partnering with the government of Canada on selling to another government. It can help also in selling to other markets. Whether you say in the current landscape, political landscape, a number of government, when you know that you've been selling to the U.S. government, they'll know that you're a serious business. So this is something that is still very important, and it brings you some credibility. I had something but I just lost it. So solicitation comes and go. It's important again to try to familiarize yourself about what are the coming priorities of each buying command, because when a solicitation arrives, it is like the turnaround time is very tight, so it does not provide you ample time. CCC attends AUSA for the Army in Washington, D.C. every year, and also our Senior Director for U.S. Relations, Susanna Wilkinson, also is very active in the U.S. She's based at our embassy in Washington, and so she can also assist as best she can to help companies be successful in the marketplace. I realize I put my slide here twice. That's okay. Good refresher. That's the end of my presentation. I just want to quickly, I believe we have a bit of time. I'd like to go quickly through some examples of projects we've done in the past before I turn to Milena, and then we can take the Q&A. So, and that will obviously be included in the slide. So I mentioned in my presentation the largest drip irrigation project in the world. So in April 2024, we signed a contract with the Peru Ministry of Agricultural Development and Irrigation to deliver the third stage of the Shefi Mochik infrastructure project with Hatch as a subcontractor to improve 48,000 acres of existing land farms and open up another 62,000 acres of new land for cultivation and supply reliable potable water to 40,000 families. And also, the idea was to help develop these lands to build capacity to improve and increase export from Peru. That's pretty cool, projects with a great social, benefit. In Dominican Republic with Group Elias, we implemented storm and sanitation drainage to 300,000 residents. In Jamaica, we supplied ICT equipment with Canada's anti-crime capacity building program to help government to address threats from transnational criminal activities. We did a $1 billion multi-country Rescue EU initiative in Europe, Morocco, Portugal, France, Greece, Croatia, Italy, so North Africa and Europe, with the supply of the Havilland aircraft, three CL-415 enhanced aerial firefighting. This is really to address emergency response firefighting, and also supply the HC-515 to Croatia, Greece, Portugal, Italy, Spain, and France. Italy, Croatia, Greece are places, and Spain, Portugal as well, that we can do business at multiple level. There's some market like France and UK, for instance, are more sophisticated, more difficult to access. But in this case, we were able to for France. So it's there is some possibility, but they're much more niche. We built the International Airport of Ecuador with ACON and a Brazilian company as a local partner, and it was done with the municipality of Quito. This is an iconic project in Ecuador. Many years later, it was resold. I think as ACON sold their stakes in the project, but award-winning, multiple industry awards. So very, very good, very nice project. We did a terminal for Bermuda to improve optimize the checkpoints, the efficiency of checkpoints at landing, but also provide means for international destination. And the terminal was built in parallel to maintaining the regular operations of the airport, which is much more complex. So a great project there. In Romania right now, we are rehabilitating C1 nuclear reactor with CANDU technology with Atkins Realis for a $750 million contract. The performance bond in this case was $35 million. We were able to lift it. So that's one thing. When we engage internationally on a government-to-government contracting basis, because CCC has a AAA credit rating, we can make an attempt to lift the performance bond of the project to make the project more appealing for lenders. And that bond, when a government wants to do a direct award and ask for a bid bond, a performance bond, I'm sorry, it could be 5 to 10% of the value of the project. So which represent a burden on the company. So we're in discussion for much more in Romania right now in the nuclear sector. We built an inland terminal container in Ghana with GV driver. In some case, we can do projects for private sector business. We did the reflection of our organ in Australia. Also, we launched rock satellites in low Earth orbit. I think it was a geostationary satellite with a company in Germany and we launched it from Kazakhstan. But we don't do many projects that are private, but we can, like local private, but we can do from time to time. Here we expanded a port to support the growth of tourism in St. Kitts Nevis. Smart water meters, Barbados. So Caribbean and Latin America are a place where we have a strong brand. I mentioned that earlier in my presentation. So despite the priorities of our government, which we fully support, Latin America and the Caribbean are places where we would like to do much more. So we sold light armored vehicles to Colombia with dual dynamics lens system. Deliver aircraft to Bangladesh. Also, we're supplying potash to Bangladesh. We're fulfilling 100% of the needs. Potash is acquired by a state-owned enterprise in Bangladesh. There are not many governments in the world that are structured like that. I believe Indonesia may be structured similarly. India, I'm not sure. Pakistan, possibly, but there are not many government like that. But we do have significant contracts with them every year. Pilot training, we do a lot with ITPS. There's also CAE. Maintenance, repair overall for aerospace, whether it's defense or it's civilian aerospace. Border protection. So we talk a lot about border protection these days, whether it's in Europe, whether it's in the South. So these are solutions that we can do, whether it's drone, whether it's strengthening of the security forces, whether it's the upgrade of the the border itself. Potash I mentioned. So I'll go back to we'll just go back here to the last slide, and then we can perhaps opening up for Q&A.
Yeah, of course. There are no questions in the chat, but I can start off this Q&A session. I do have a question. First off, these projects are done on a much, much bigger scale than I thought. So that's incredible. But I wrote down my question, so sorry if I'm looking down. So I know you said that it's like case by case, but like how can a business assess if they're really like export ready, I guess, to enter into like an international government contracts? Like, is there a minimum requirement in terms of like, is it revenue capacity? Yeah.
And
like,
Milena, it's an excellent question. So when we do a due diligence on the company, obviously our two programs are different one another. So
right.
for the US DoD, it is very accessible to companies. If you got
Okay.
800,000, a million revenue, we want better revenues than a million revenue, but I
Yeah.
believe that if you were to be awarded a contract of 250,000 US, their chances are, because sometimes it's a 3-4 year contract, that's the overall
Right.
price. So the requirements on a per year basis is not as what we would expect in a single transaction. Essentially, we want a company to have 3 times the size of annual revenues, then the size of the project in terms of capital requirements on a year, on each year of the project. If we do a 15-year contract versus a 1-year contract, the requirements will be very, very different.
Right.
And again, I say this, but I mean, it's not a cookie cutter approach. We'll assess this on a case by case. Like every project will assess like let's say you develop an ICT solution. If your solution has already been developed and you're reselling it,
Right.
yes, you're including your cost, the development cost, the training, the implementation, and everything. But the chances are that your margins will be very, very high. So then, if the margins are high, the solution is already developed, the risk that you assume there could be, there may be some liabilities with the government, but if it's in the cloud, the risks are still very limited. If your solution has already been sold to somewhere in the world or in Canada, we need that because we need to make sure we're not creating something from scratch, but the risk will be lower. So therefore, the company could have lower capacity. If the company is a subsidiary to a parent company located outside of Canada, getting the backing of the parent company, if the local company in Canada is small, the subsidiary would be important. One for a company looking to do business internationally, there's a trade commissioner. I was part of the trade commissioner service before. Whether you work with the province or the trade commissioner service that has a presence in 160 cities around the globe, they also can export money to support to offset some of the costs for travel to a new market. You can also join a ministerial trade mission to help open doors in a given market. But what I have to advise to companies when you look at doing business internationally, because you're ready for that, always assign a significant budget for travel, because building relationship in the market is not something you do all at once. Some markets really insist in building the right relationship. They don't care much about whether the contract is going to be a tender or a direct award. Other markets are much more sophisticated. US market is not easy to penetrate, and they go by, they have their own process. But if you're a person who used to be in uniform, you may have better access because you know what language to use and how to use it and who to
Yeah.
speak with, so, but this effort takes time. So obviously, many companies in Canada will start selling to the US. The situation is challenging. Our program with the US is free of charge it's a duty free that we have arrangement, so there's no fee. We keep it low key, but there's no fee on this. But all that to say, the market is close by, so for companies selling over there, the risk are smaller. If you sell to the Caribbean and Latin America, it could be closer than selling to Asia Pacific, for instance. If you already have experience doing business, penetrating market that are further far away,
Mm-hmm.
yes, it's possible. But very, very important, because going to trade mission, you may establish good contacts, but you will need to follow up with these contacts. And these contacts may want to see you there. They want to see someone who's
Right.
who has a good presence, who know what they're doing. They're not an outsider, not liar, and then
Mhm.
they look like they're a bit off in the culture and how to do business and everything. They want people who are well familiar with the business. Romania will want a local firm to be established. So if you create your own firm locally, the government may not be interested. So you need to check what makes sense. You know, uh, is the
Mhm.
government open for you to, the I mean, the trade commissioner at our embassy can guide you into what are the cultural expectations, the cultural norms of doing
Right.
business in that market, and that really can save a lot of headache.
Mhm.
Really, um, your own organization may also be able to assist very well in some markets where you have a good level of entry points. And
Mhm.
but getting the intelligence is very, very important because it allow you to better gauge the market and whether it's a good fit for you. So for us, we are assessing the company managerial, technical, financial capabilities. We want to make sure that, if preferably, if you're a small business or a medium-sized business and it's the first time you're going into a one region, um, it brings risk. But if you did
Yeah.
many projects internationally, then it reduces risk on the flip side
Mhm.
because you have experience dealing with different culture, different regulatory framework. How do you manage delays? How to manage unexpected setback on a project.
Yeah.
Um, so that's one thing. Um, working with other companies. If you're too small, you can work with another companies in collaboration, but this is not easy to do. You don't want a hostile takeover at one point. You don't want to be an illegal dispute also. So this is never that easy to do. But there are some companies that are really, really good at doing that
Mhm.
in order to leapfrog. So if you're small, but you want to be able to capture a deal, then partner with another company that would be much bigger in Canada. CCC's contract can take multiple forms. So we could say tomorrow the company is too small, but we will subcontract with the other company, and the other company will partner with your business. In the
Got
end,
it. Yeah.
as a company, you want to create jobs, you want to grow, you want to take market share, you want to sell your solution. There are multiple ways to reach that goal, but
Mhm.
some are more complex than others, but there are multiple ways. So,
Yeah.
UK, if you work with with a subsidiary in Canada, um, on a solution that could be sold to the UK or elsewhere with some UK content, UK export financing can finance the project, which with a lot of flexibility.
Right.
And
Okay.
these are things sometimes that other countries have their own ECA. So in some markets where EDC may have less appetite to go, sometimes in Europe we can find a potential partner that could leverage, a Société Générale of like financing from France or from UK or other places.
Mhm.
So it's a complex world. It's fascinating, but it's complex. So I mean that these are the few tips. When I
Mhm.
engage with companies, I engage with around 800 companies per year across sectors.
Oh.
And then when when I speak to the CEO, very pleased, but I will ask the CEO, do you have a sales team? If you don't have a sales team, that's okay, but it speaks to the size of your business. There
Mm-hmm.
are rare cases. I made a company in Quebec City who has 300 million revenue, and the sales is done by the CEO and a VP. And I was very surprised, but that's the only one I've seen in 3 or 4 years at CCC.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if you have a sales team, chances are that you would have potentially a good size to undertake, a business globally with CCC. Obviously, you need a solution that fulfill a need of a government. If your
Yeah.
solution is more for private sector or to integrate into a supply chain in aerospace, for instance, it may not be a good fit unless it's for maintenance work for a government, existing fleet in
Yeah.
aerospace specifically. So the solution has to be a fit. We want solutions that are innovative enough, but some commercially available solution still work. Sometimes the government
Mm-hmm.
cannot afford to go into a tender, and they're pressed by deadlines, by timelines, and therefore CC becomes a very agile partner to work with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, on a last note, for companies who are doing business in the defense sector, many governments around the globe do business with US FMS, US Foreign Military Sales. This is a government to government contracting agency of the United States. They have to go to Congress for approvals and for amendments, which automatically bring them at 30 months backlog unless a decision is made by the central government to stop a relation or a transaction from happening. Uh, so, so for companies who are engaging with government stakeholders, mentioning that Canada as a Canadian version of FMS is usually very appealing to government. This is what I've told the German Navy when I met with them, and they were very surprised and happily surprised. Um, and we're not in
Mm-hmm.
competition, but we don't carry any backlog, and we don't go to Parliament for a project's approval. So that makes things much faster. And we don't carry a very detailed template. We have no template. We'll work with what the government
Mm-hmm.
requires.
Right. So out of curiosity, one of those big projects that you showed, like as an example, near the end, what would be the time frame? Like how long was that whole process?
But Germany, I think it was 1.5 to 2 years. We were hoping to do it in 1 year.
Okay.
I think an airport could take 3 years, sometimes
Right.
more, sometimes it really depends on a number of consideration.
Yeah.
If we were to
Okay.
undertake a project with a government that is very sophisticated and
Mm-hmm.
requires to bypass a tender, like
Yeah.
if the government may not need to go to parliament. If they don't, we save a lot of time. If
Yeah.
they do,
Okay.
well, we need to table this to parliament, and then
Mm-hmm.
that's the count of the parliament, and then we have to wait. Um, if the country lacks capacity and really need assistance, then it's very challenging and it will take time because we have to go at the pace of the government of that country. And if they don't have the expertise, like let's say the municipality of Quito, they've never done an airport, and it's normal for a municipality. So we'll really have to walk and follow the pace and take the
Mm-hmm.
the the cues and really move the needle step by step,
Right.
and that could take time. I mean, some government are very agile and move fast. Um, I met some government who wanted a solution in 1 month turnaround. In the summer, I was engaged with Senegal. They have their money. They wanted a solution on commissioning and field support training and honors engineering work for natural gas development. They wanted the project to get it started in 3 weeks. You know, I was like, I couldn't believe it. But I mean,
Yeah.
in most projects, obviously, it could take longer. If it's emergency response, we will try our best to really move the entire mountain at CCC and get it done like within
Yeah.
days, really. But that may
Mm-hmm.
require some troubleshooting, some some strong engagement with our partner colleague, Global Affairs, who looks at our governance to make sure that all the consultation is done properly but super fast.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but but otherwise, like because we cover so many different solutions, it is hard. Some companies come to us and it's super pressing. The government wants to award a contract. They don't want to do a tender. and then they need a letter of support right away. So we do the due diligence, and one day turn around, we send a letter of support if we're satisfied with the due diligence, and we move on. And the government may be able to award a contract in 2, 3 weeks.
Right.
And it really depends. Sometimes the contract is already developed, so CCC will add its own provisions, change the letterhead, and proceed.
Okay.
So, and we don't need MOUs unless the government asks for it. And we're there to do we're there for business, but
Mhm.
I mean we also follow rules of government the way they feel comfortable with.
Right. Okay. Thank you. And then there's one question in the chat. So somebody asked, would CCC help SME navigate business opportunities across borders? And is there a minimum amount of investment required for an SME to qualify to trade across borders? So I think you might have answered that second part, but.
Yeah, and I have to say, if I can add to what I previously said,
Mhm.
so the province have representation abroad, some provinces, and the Trade Commercial Service has extensive representation abroad. They also look for opportunities. So if your business has a number of staff, have an office in Canada, if you believe that you could qualify by the Trade Commercial Service,
Mhm.
TCS. I believe your team, the World Trade Center Winnipeg, could help make the introduction. It's a
Mhm.
service that is free of charge to Canadian companies, and they have 4 qualified services. They help for international market. They help to prep for your journey, international trade journey. They can provide qualified contacts. They can help with advocacy. There are other things they may be able to assist with, including identification of potential. They may be able to make an introduction, but if you build the relationship with the right level, with the mission, the point of contact at the mission, at one point they may also be able to refer some opportunities. Um, and the World Trade Center, Winnipeg may also be engaging with them as well, in support of some of the members. And all that to say that opportunities come for us. It come both ways. 75% of opportunities come from exporters. 25% come from government authorities and partners. And I deliver training to around 400 partners every year because we want referrals, want opportunities to be referred to us so that we can send them over to the companies that we support. And I mean, it could look complex. Um, Give yourself time, and whether it's the right moment for CCC or later, uh, I'm today my intention is for you to remember CCC when it's going to come the time, because
Mhm.
we could say, oh, a tender opportunity is a more democratic way of running a procurement. There are many ways to do it, and countries who lack governance, it may not be the best way for them to do that. Uh, because if it brings them 5 years down the road with the risk of failing the tender, then they're back at square zero with an increased price for the project, but they have limited
Mhm.
financial capacity. So there are multiple ways to do it. We provide one way. Sometimes companies in Canada complain that the government does not provide the right level of backing compared to France and other governments, where the level playing field may not be what they feel is on level. We do provide, as a signing partner on a contract, it adds weight to the balance and has a good brand internationally. So I can guarantee when foreign governments show up in Ottawa, most often they want to stop at our offices and meet with us.
Mhm.
It's a privilege. We're fortunate, and we want to leverage that well at the advantage of Canadian businesses. Um, if you want to brainstorm ideas, if you're not sure, you want to further the discussion, I am available. It's a busy season as we're closing the end of the year, but I am available. I'm really happy to do that. Um, and we
Okay.
can do it through the World Trade Center, Winnipeg. But
Mhm.
feel free to engage, and I left my contact detail on the slide of my deck.
Yes, perfect. Thank you so much. And then I also just included some upcoming webinars and events that we are having, so people can check those out. But thank you so much, Claude. This was super insightful. I personally have learned so much. So, and thank you for your questions as well. So hopefully we will see everybody online soon.